Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Everything Websites podcast. My guest today is I'm gonna go straight with it. It's Rebecca Courtney. I'm sure a lot of you know Rebecca, and Rebecca, say hi.
Hello. I'm really glad to be here. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Yeah, so uh, Rebecca. Like I said, I think you guys know Rebecca from AJ's blog, probably mostly one of the best known facilitation design facilitators in the world. But Rebecca specializes in facilitation, design thinking, helping teams make better decisions in fast moving digital environments. Therefore, I know this is a podcast about websites and stuff. But I think if we challenges design thinking can really help out with the process and the way we do things in general. So that's why I think Rebecca would be a great speaker to this topic. Yeah. So let's just start with it. I want to ask Rebecca, what does a good decision making actually look like inside a team? I think that's a good starting point.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for the intro as well, by the way. It's lovely. It's lovely to hear somebody else describe what I do because it's hard to actually put it into words. But I also think you said there that the design thinking process is going to be helpful for your listeners, but I also think the topic around facilitation and understanding that a bit deeper and how people can take on that role as a facilitator is going to make everything, the whole decision making process, solving problems just that bit easier. So we can go into that a bit deeper, but to answer your question, what good decision making looks like in a team, inside a team, to me, it looks like a room that's designed for contribution versus just consumption.
Mm.
And so what I mean by that is that, yeah, you're making a space for people where everybody is able to actually contribute to the decisions that are being made there. And I think that's what a lot of meetings, workshops, sessions
Yeah.
actually get wrong is that they either have the loudest person in the room or the most confident or the most articulate person in the room getting their ideas out there, while the quieter ones, the more introverted people who are probably the ones with the best ideas locked inside in their head, they don't have any space or way of contributing to the session that they're actually in. And so good decision making and designing a session for that needs to have that equal participation and different ways of being able to contribute. And that could be simple. And you know it yourself as like writing ideas on sticky notes, using
Mm.
working together alone techniques, and making sure that also another really important, I suppose, aspect of good decision making is making sure that everybody is aligned throughout the whole decision making process and they're all moving in the same direction, in the right direction, and that nobody is left behind. That's a huge problem as well that I see in teams, that somebody, like maybe a few people are confused as to what's happening and the other part of the group is moving too quickly and they just get left behind and just disengage and zone out and do something else on Slack and the whole entire team is just, yeah, falls apart then. So that's what it is to me.
Do you usually work with the large groups or
Yeah, like it depends. The largest group I worked with was 1,600 people, which
really?
is
So
crazy, absolutely crazy.
yeah.
But normally when I'm working with a team, I try to aim for 7 people in a room, and that's like the lucky number for anything, for a design sprint, design thinking workshop, or just any sort of problem solving and decision making session. 7 is the lucky number. It's like the right amount of people to generate a great amount of ideas, but also not too big so it doesn't get too overwhelming.
Yeah, yeah. I really like this idea of design thinking, and in this programs, because this is something that we do as well in Broworks. It really helps down to break down the process, the project, involve different people because everybody thinks different. So you never know when someone gonna get a good idea or something that maybe you're never gonna think of. So I really think this is very important to say, especially between this new era of AI, because people nowadays just try to automate everything, and not evolve people at all.
I know. I know. It's a challenge where we are right now with everything changing. It's incredibly exciting, but also, yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty in trying to figure out how best to use these tools with teams so that everybody still feels valuable and good,
Yeah,
and part of something that matters.
yeah. I always in this kind of groups meetings. I like to include different, like I said, different kinds of people. So obviously we have a decision maker from a client, some of their team members. For my team, I like to include the developers, designers, all of them. Well, in your case, what would be the best, maybe like a team that would need to be included in this kind of conversation?
Yeah, I suppose so. If a team is doing a design thinking project,
Hmm.
let's say something like that, or a design sprint, I would make sure that I would have everybody from different departments. Somebody from the design team, somebody from the marketing team, somebody like stakeholders and people who are going to be in charge of actually moving this project forward. I would have
Hmm.
all of them in the room together. So as you said, that you have these diverging perspectives, and also people from with different expertise and with
Yeah.
different backgrounds, so that the best ideas can actually emerge from this project. And this is something that AI can't replicate. Like, I really don't believe that it will ever be able to replicate the magic that happens when you bring a diverse group of people together into a room for a certain amount of time to ideate on something. And yeah, the magic that's created from that, which is facilitated well, is, yeah, I think irreplaceable at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, if you're building it for people, you really need people to be part
Hmm.
of the process. Otherwise, it's just going to be too cold. Maybe not going to make sense most times. And as we know that AI introduced and as we progress with all of these things, it's dramatically reduced this barrier of execution. Well, now can just do a lot of things on their own. They can just generate things instantly, create content, create a lot of these things, and even land much faster than they did before. Um, so regarding that, like what AI does, how AI impact our lives, do you think AI is making teams move too fast before thinking properly?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think, like, I can even just give you a personal example from myself right now. I know that AI is an incredible tool for me as a support tool, but where the line is getting a bit blurred is when it's actually interfering with my thinking, when it's interfering with my cognitive functioning. It's making me lazier. And for example, like when I'm designing workshops now, or if I have a talk coming up next week. You know it yourself. You'll be
Yeah.
there. I'm preparing
Yeah.
for that. And I
Right.
know that before the AI tools, I would have been able to really sit down to this task and create a presentation or a talk or whatever it is that just came from me. And I know that it would have came out better than what I'm doing right now, which is using the AI tools to help me save time and effort. So what I feel like is that the AI tools are saving me effort, but not time. So they're helping me like think less, but the time is actually taking more of my time now because I'm going down way more rabbit holes, which is absolutely
Mhm.
crazy. But what I'm talking about here is this effort that we're kind of skipping this effort part, and that in that effort, that friction of having to think something through, and especially if a team has to think something through, that's actually where the good stuff happens. That's where the best ideas emerge from, and where you actually can slow down and be like, is this actually the right problem that we're solving? We're
Um,
skipping all that part because we now have tools to make us, go straight to solution mode or execution mode. And because we're skipping that part, we're just yeah, we're basically building the wrong things. We're spending time on the wrong problems, and it feels good because it's faster. It's just like I think
uh,
it's a bit broken at the moment.
you know, reminds me when you said like AI is now taking you actually more time than what your thinking process before is actually exactly the same thing that the big markets are doing, because like they have all these discounts and like you're gonna save more, but then you go there and you buy way more than you would have buy at first, and you generally just you don't save anything, you just spend more. This is
Yeah,
almost the same thing, right?
yeah, totally. Now we're just like overwhelmed with, you know, productivity now. We're like, oh, so we can just like keep going down these rabbit holes and we're
Yeah.
feeling productive, but we're not actually getting much done at all. So yeah, I think it's definitely interfering with our thinking, and it's making people move way too fast past the parts of a decision making process or a problem solving session that actually matters, where you're like actually talking to the customer, figuring out what problem you're meant to be solving, and making sure that's the right one before then bringing in some of these tools to help you with execution. Yeah, we're skipping all those parts too quickly.
Yeah.
And the design thinking process is great. This is a great model to slow people's thinking down and make sure that you're getting the best out of the people at each stage of the process. So I think this design thinking process can really help us with the, yeah, protecting our thinking.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's crazy nowadays with all of these things. It's very difficult to distinguish of what is important, what is more or less important, how you should address all of these things. It does help you, especially if you ask certain questions or ask to challenge your thinking or whatever, instead of just asking for answers. I think in that
Mm.
kind of sense, it's very good to use, but people usually just want an answer. And if you
Yeah.
just answer, sometimes maybe you can get a wrong one.
Totally. I think like absolutely you can use it in a way that's going to elevate your thinking, but
Yeah.
I think the way we've been, there's not much out there that's helping us at the moment in using it properly, and there's no real best practices yet, I feel. So we're just, as you say, just trying it out and asking for answers. But I think the best way to use it is to develop your own questioning skills and really try to develop good prompts to get the best out of it. And I think that's how you can still protect your critical thinking and your problem solving when you use it in a more, I suppose, productive way, safer way.
Do you maybe can say like a few words why, not why, like what kind of new mistakes are emerging because of these AI tools?
Yeah, what sort of mistakes are emerging? I think there's lots of mistakes and I
Yeah.
suppose misunderstandings about how AI can be brought into companies. I think obviously the biggest one, and I think the most spoken about one, and maybe I don't need to go into it in too much detail now, is that AI is going to replace human judgment and human thinking. And I really don't believe that because I really deeply believe that humans are necessary. Uh, Still within companies to bring that human side that AI can't replicate. Yeah, this whole like bringing people together, as I said earlier, this like
Yeah.
magic that happens when you bring a group of people with diverging perspectives together that can never be replicated with AI. This like moment of, when you share an idea and then somebody else builds on it because of
Yeah.
their, own life experience and their connection to it, that just doesn't happen within AI. And so I feel deeply that humans are still super necessary, but maybe some companies are thinking, "Oh, actually, we don't need some of these roles anymore. Let's just let go of people." But the one I wanted to talk about, I think like the biggest mistake or the biggest misunderstanding companies have right now about AI tools is that it's going to make people more productive. Now,
Yeah.
again, this is like it all is relevant. So, if you learn how to use the tools properly, I don't think this is going to apply what I am going to say now. But because we're not learning how to use them properly, I think we're falling into this productivity illusion. And
Yeah.
like this whole epidemic of busy work before, where people are like, they're pretending to work essentially and they're really not getting much done. I think we're now moving into an era of busy work that's actually just like a billion times worse than before because now we have these tools that make us feel incredibly productive and we're like generating things, we're starting new projects, we have all these different things happening, but nothing is actually getting shipped. It's very rare that people are putting things out into the world that they're working on because they're getting stuck in this productivity illusion of like, I can do this and I'm making progress. So I think that's one of the biggest kind of maybe mistakes
Yeah.
or misunderstandings that companies are falling into, that it's going to make people more productive. I think there will be a period of time where it's going to make people a bit more unproductive.
I mean, I just think that yeah, people just should communicate more because with all of these things, I
Mm.
think we started with COVID and now with AI, it's just becoming uh, what's it called? Like they're not socializing enough.
Yeah.
So working from home, all these things, it's kind of convenient, but again damaging at the same time. So I think, like I said, if you're building for people, you really need people around you.
Totally, totally. And again, I don't want to sound anti-AI. I'm totally pro AI, pro. But I think it's just right now the way companies are using it, it's like it can genuinely be transformative, but if we're not using it the right way, if we're using it to generate or we're kind of using it to generate our way into exhaustion at the moment. I
Yeah.
have like, I don't know about you, but I have like a million projects started. Like I'm like, and I'm going to create a landing page and a website over here, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. But I'm not actually putting stuff out into the world yet because I feel I'm making progress within Cloud Code. And yeah, with all these little projects I'm starting.
Yeah, I mean, I think that nowadays people think that they can really do everything by themselves, but you still need understanding of the topic that you're working on. Because if you don't, then
Absolutely.
I mean, generally AI can always tell you like if something is wrong, but if you don't know it, then you will not. You maybe it's gonna take too long to build, or it's gonna become messy. You're gonna be obsessed with it and maybe crazy about all of these things. So I think you still need to know the topic, but again, the way of thinking is maybe even more important than just the knowledge about a topic you're building on. Just wanted to touch
Yeah.
a bit this on the website thing
Yeah.
because I feel like that people are not the companies, agencies. I don't know about the freelancers because they're kind of alone, but even for
Mm.
them, it can mean the same thing because I don't think people do these workshops and design thinking processes enough in their workflow, particularly in the website business, because I think you should and you can because it helps break down the process, helps you understand better what you need to do and what the client expectations are, the users, what they expect, because you're building first for the users. What do you think about that kind of angle?
Yeah, so I think the design thinking process, especially for building websites, is essential. And I think I'm not sure how companies are doing it without this process, to be honest, without like the design thinking process and using a workshop recipe like the design sprint. I'm wondering how other people are doing it because if you don't follow this structure, risk, yeah, basically solving the wrong problem and putting a lot of time and effort into building the wrong thing. And with the AI tools, it can just make this whole thing even worse. So I think the design thinking process, and for listeners who don't know it, it's a very simple 5-step process that you bring a group through to design any service or product. So you can use it for websites, you can use it for onboarding processes. You can use it for basically any challenge that you have as a company. And so, for example, for a website, if you're designing or building a website, you can go through this process. And the process starts with empathize phase. So it's
Mhm.
the empathize phase, the define, ideate, prototype, and test. And they're the 5 phases of the design thinking process. And I think what's the most special about this entire process for building a website is those first 2 steps and those first 2 phases that we normally skip. And with these AI tools, we're skipping past them even faster. And the empathize phase is you're ensuring that you deeply understand the user that you're designing the website for. You're
Mhm.
deeply understanding the customer. And before you even going into defining the problem or the challenge, you want to understand the customer first. And so you can do that by doing simple interviews with users or any sort of research that you can go into. There's a really great exercise called the empathy map, and you combine that with empathy interviews. And yeah, you gather a lot of data about what the user actually needs, and you get rid of your assumptions because this is, I think, our problem. We have an assumption of what the user might need, and that's all based on our own life experience, our own opinions. But yeah, we don't know that until we talk to the user. So that phase, I would encourage teams to spend a lot of time on before building anything. And then once you have a lot of data there and you feel good and you feel like you understand the user, you move on to the next stage, which is the define phase. And within that phase, then you're really figuring out, okay, what problem are we trying to solve here? And what
Mhm.
does that like? And you're creating a statement, a how might we statement on that problem so that you can move into the ideate phase really clear on what problem you're trying to solve for the user. And I think those two phases of the design thinking process, of course, the rest of it is incredible for building websites. But I think once you get that right, you build the foundation for creating a website or a product or a service that is going to be really, really great for that user.
I know that there's many teams that, not many, but there's some maybe clients that don't have enough budget, for example, to spend on user research, interviews, and these kind of things. What would you recommend in that case? If they are budget limited or time limited, what would you recommend would be the best exercise or workshop, whatever, uh,
Mhm.
to replace that or make up to that?
Yeah. So there's lots of different things you can do. And I suppose the easiest way to do it is you simulate the user yourself with your team. Um,
Mhm.
and what you can do is you can do role play interviews, and so one person can play the user. And before you go into that interview, you're going to do a bit of research yourself. And what's amazing about the AI tools now is that you can create a persona for the user, and you can ask Claude or ChatGPT to give you a bit of data around this type of persona.
Yeah, yeah,
And then you and your team can do these interviews with each other and try to gather the data from those. And that's actually something that I do a lot with design thinking trainings when I'm training teams and we don't have, we don't have access to the user to solve the challenge we're going into. I just do it with the team. And it's really amazing for the team to do this anyway, because they then, when they're playing the role of the user, they become more empathetic to the user.
yeah,
They understand needs
yeah.
that they had that they wouldn't have before. So it's a really great exercise in general to do in a design thinking workshop.
I would recommend maybe that, like, I want to say, like, okay, then in that case, the good use of AI could be to say, because you have this a voice version of it, if you have an app,
Hmm.
you can give it instructions and say, like, okay, you are a user now
Yeah.
and act like that, and let's communicate. But I think your example is better because you involve people, and then
Hmm.
especially if they're clients or people that own the website, they're going to be better connected with their users and understand them better. I think that's a pretty good
Totally.
approach.
I did a bit of a hybrid approach in a design thinking training
Yeah.
recently where I got people to, so we had this one user, an extreme user, and actually this is a really good tip if you're running a design thinking workshop or doing any sort of user research. It's really good to have um yeah, a range of different types of users. So
Mhm.
extreme users and mainstream users. Mainstream users are just kind of like your average users. And then the more extreme users are maybe people who are like if they're using your website, maybe one person could be totally not tech savvy and very anxious about,
Yeah.
like using the site. So we in this design thinking training, we had a persona of a girl called Maria, and she was an extreme user. She was super nervous. She didn't know how to use the tool that we had, and she kept like just bailing out of the tool because she was just too afraid. So what we did was in the interviews, people played Maria. Some people interviewed her in little groups. But then as a group, we created an AI Maria. And then we like
Yeah.
fed all the information into Claude and I asked it to pretend to be Maria and I was to interview her back and forth. And it was amazing. Like
Yeah.
the
Was
additional
it
stuff
was
that we got from
it was very different from the real person, or what was the difference in this two?
it was actually, you know what? It was very similar to the conversations that people had in
Mm.
their own interviews together. So a lot of the same things came up, but there was just one thing that AI caught that we didn't. And what was it? It was like it was just the one word that the tool
Yeah.
said, which was the complexity of the tool, and that then helped us frame the how might we a bit later on. So it was like we were all kind of saying the same thing, but in different words. But then the tool helped us actually just clarify the words that we were missing. And it was just a really cool like little thing to do with the team and show them the
And
power of AI.
you guys do this mostly as interviews, or is there in some other way that you do this?
But pardon? Sorry.
I mean, you do it only as an interview, like interviewing the user, or maybe because I was thinking like, okay, sometimes when we do the user journey mapping,
Mhm.
then a client sometimes is a user, and then we're guiding him through the user journey map. So maybe that's one way. But I say like
Yeah.
interviewing it directly, maybe that's like a second way. Is there any other way that you would recommend?
Yeah, yeah, there's different ways to do it. There's also observations. So like if you wanted to redesign an onboarding process or something within a company,
Hmm.
instead of interviewing the employees about it, you could actually just shadow them and observe how they go through the onboarding process.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, just observations is another way of doing it. Field research, if you just literally go to the user and see how they're actually using the tool themselves, sitting next to them and seeing, okay, like they do this and they do that, and this is why they're having these problems. And so yeah, observations, shadowing, interviews. There's loads of other
Uh,
ways of gathering that research.
Yeah, I mean, we're stuck very long in this process. But I want to add one more thing because in our process, we also quite often add, obviously, competitive analysis. You want to see, not like really to copy competitors, but to see what they're doing good or what they're doing wrong that you might use at your advantage.
Mhm.
Is there anything that maybe, I mean, do you do competitive analysis? It's yeah,
Yeah, so my favorite exercise to do this with is lightning demos. And I think,
yeah,
have you done, yeah, so is that
yeah,
the
from design.
similar. Yeah, some of the design thinking are design sprint, but I think lightning demos is actually the one that I would use the most when trying to see what else is out there and trying to get people primed for ideation. And basically, it's very simple exercise. You get participants to, yeah, go away for a bit, maybe about 20, 30 minutes, look at how other people are doing or solving the same challenge as you're trying to solve, and then writing down the big idea, maybe having a little clip or some sort of visual to show and demo what this is and why it inspired you and what you can use for your challenge. That would probably be the best tool
Yeah.
or exercise I use for this. I also have a friend who created something really cool recently. I think it's called the competitors triangle. You might need to actually look this up, but his name is Sebastian Vetti. He's an incredible innovation consultant. And yeah, he created this really simple triad
Mhm.
to help teams actually go out there and see what their competitors are doing, what problems they actually solved, and how then you can remix your own, your own solution with somebody else's and make it your own. And I think, yeah, everything is a remix, everything is a copy of something. And so doing these sort of exercises with teams it's incredible and it saves so much time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there is a certain process. Obviously, we have one. I would make. I think I'm gonna ask you at the end. Maybe what would you recommend would be the best in your mind
Mm.
process for? I know you're not a web designer or stuff like that, but in your
Mhm.
design thinking, what would be the best structure for uh, for this design thinking process or workshop or anything that everybody should have in
Mhm.
their building process. But let's say this for the end because I wanna go
Yeah.
through a little bit more so that we can build up on that. Uh, okay, I wanna touch base a little bit on the future of the websites and the product teams because everything is just changing quickly as we were saying because AI is just reshaping everything. Um, but the companies still need the same things. They still need a clear direction, strong facilitation, strategic thinking. I think they will always need that. Doesn't matter how much AI progress. Maybe the thing that's going to change is the amount of people that's going to be included. Most likely, I don't know,
I'm not sure yet.
but I think like in generally these things are always going to be needed. So, what do you think? What roles or skills become more valuable in this new environment?
Well, not to be biased or anything,
Yeah.
but I think, I think to be honest, facilitation is going to be a very, very important skill for everybody to develop.
Uh-huh.
Within companies, when you're solving problems, making decisions, uh, it's not just because it's my job, but I think when everyone has access to the same AI tools, the differentiator, it isn't who can generate the most content or the best designs. It's the person who can actually get into a room full of people and make great decisions together and actually commit to the decisions and make sure everybody is aligned on it. But beyond the facilitation skills and being able to help a group through a process, a decision-making process, I think critical thinking and the ability to ask precise and clear questions is going to be incredibly important. It's interesting because prompting AI well is essentially just asking good questions with clarity. And I don't think a lot of people are good at doing that yet. And it's a
Yeah.
deeply human skill that suddenly now has extremely practical applications. So, yeah, if you can think extremely clearly, ask great questions, and protect your brain and don't leave it get too lazy. Those are the skills that I feel like matter the most right now.
They say that if you wanna use AI properly, you need to be able to ask, not to ask, like to say exactly and very specifically what you need.
Hmm.
I don't think most people can do that. Many times I
No.
can't do that. It might take so long, right? So until you come
Yeah,
to that point that you specify every little thing by the end of your process, and then AI gives you the best answer because it's so broad.
totally. Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like, I don't know now, this is probably going to further destroy my brain, but, like, because we're getting a bit lazier in our thinking, we're like prompting in a lazy way. And it's like some AI will spit something out and you're just like, fix it. That's not good. Do better, blah, blah. And sometimes you fall
Like
into
that.
that mode. Yeah. But now
Really.
what I'm after figuring out, I'm like, oh no, I'm after figuring out something that's it's going to be really good, but it's terrible for my own thinking. So now what I'm doing is like if I can't prompt well, if I'm like super tired or something and I just don't want to think about it, I ask AI to create an incredibly clear prompt for me to
Hmm.
make it do something, So like normally
Yeah.
when if I'm making a website or something, making a landing page, I'm like, oh, will you make it like this? And the prompt is okay, but sometimes now I'm like, can you create me the best prompt so that I can feed it to you so that you can generate the best landing page for me. And I'm like, oh no, I'm now after finding another hack to make me a bit lazier.
Even then, I did also that. It does create a good prompt, but then it needs to assume a lot of how things might be. And I
Yeah,
think you still need to feed it with some sort of information and direction in order to give you the good prompt. I mean, in the end, it's
absolutely.
design thinking, but with the AI in this
Yeah,
case.
yeah, no, I totally believe that. I believe like with everything, with using AI tools, you as the person, you have all the knowledge within you that you want to help it just, I suppose, elevate.
Mm.
And I think the people who are going to be the most successful with this are the people who are extremely clear in their thinking, really, really good at asking the right questions and feeding it the right information to develop the best, I suppose,
Mhm.
output. Because yeah, like if you have one person who's like super lazy and is just like, create me a website and it needs to look good, or you can have somebody who understands what good looks like
Yeah.
and can feed it a bit more, to get the best out of it. That's what success looks like with these
Also, my
tools.
good and your good, it's not the same because we're different people. So yeah,
Exactly.
if you just say good, who knows what that means?
Yeah, exactly. Being specific is the way to go.
You did mention like a use of AI in a couple of examples, but what would you say would be the best use of AI in these workshops?
Okay. So let me think about that. In terms of like what I believe should not be outsourced with
Mhm.
AI, like in the workshops, I think there's two parts of a session that I believe should be protected at all costs and should not be handed over to AI. That is the parts where a group of people is creatively thinking. So the divergent thinking part of a session where you're generating ideas, where you're ideating together, brainstorming, I believe that needs to be completely protected and AI should not come in there. And the reason behind that is because the best, as we said earlier at the very beginning, is when you bring this group of people together, that group is unique in its own way, and it's not something that the AI can replicate. The ideas that come from that conversation can't be replicated. So that collision of ideas, the unexpected connections, all of that should stay within or should stay AI free. And the
Yeah.
second part of the session, I think, is like when you're having these conversations or these open discussions about what you just did, I believe this needs to be facilitated by somebody and guided by somebody who understands group dynamics, understands how a group actually works together. And I think that also needs to be anti-AI. You know, you can't just
Yeah.
ask AI, oh, summarize what we just did there so that I can figure out how we can move on to the next part. You need to have these conversations because within those, the best insights emerge and those moments of, oh, wait, are we actually like solving the right thing right now? um, those conversations, those open discussions between exercises, I feel need to be totally protected.
Yeah, I think I caught myself many times that I just wanted for AI to summarize a meeting or whatever, and then it's not good because it just did this thing for me. And if I get asked a follow-up question or something, I would not be able to answer it, and I don't understand every aspect of it. So if a problem emerges, I don't know how to solve
Yeah,
it because I don't have all the background knowledge that I supposed to
yeah,
have. So I think we should just use AI to maybe. I mean, depends on the purpose, obviously, but I think best use is just to challenge our thinking.
yeah.
Then some many times also happens that by speaking with AI, I find the answer on my own because it's
Mhm.
just that me challenge my opinion. I think that's pretty good.
Totally. I also, another thing I'd love to say as well is like in the design thinking process, in design sprints, you have the prototype phase. I also believe that that phase needs to be deeply protected. And like you can use AI there.
Mm,
However, I believe the first few steps of the prototype phase should be done by hand. If you're designing a website,
yeah,
you should be drawing the concept
mm,
and not asking AI to help you with for that part. Get out a quick sketch of what you think the website should look like based on the ideas that you've generated and all of that. And once you go and test that with your team or something and get some feedback on it, maybe then you can start incorporating AI to build you like a demo prototype. But if you skip that sketching part or like that part where you're individually thinking about an idea or creating a prototype, what happens is AI can spit out this really polished prototype that looks really cool and it fools us. It fools us
yeah,
because it's like, oh, that looks really good, but really, if you actually look at it, the content is really crappy. But because it looks so polished, you ignore the red flags. So I think
yeah,
in that process of concept creation, drawing out your ideas, really thinking about it, you will catch those red flags better than you would if you just like plopped it into AI and made it generate this beautiful thing. So I think we need to be careful with it there. I'm not sure how you use it with prototyping, but this is where
yeah.
I'd have some caution.
But yeah, like we said, I mean, you need to feed it with as much information and details as possible, and then it gives you a good answer and good response, or maybe ask a good question. So I think that's a good way. But again, like we said, it's a thing that you should use carefully. A lot, mostly work with people. Use AI as a helping tool, not as a replacement. I think that's the way to go. Um,
Yeah, I love that. I love that quote. Quoting you.
okay, so what do you think? What are the most companies still misunderstanding about AI today? Or let's say,
Um,
I'll put it like this: about AI and about workshops, two different things.
well, think, yeah. Well, I think as well that the main misunderstanding is that it's going to, really quickly enhance the productivity, as I said earlier, and maybe it will help with the busy work. I don't think it's going to yet. So I think that's going to take a while for us to get used to this feeling of like, okay, just because I'm generating lots of different projects and optimizing all these different ways of working, that doesn't mean I'm actually being more productive and, working in a way that's helping the company. So that's one. Workshops, I think, yeah, I think there's I suppose, I'm not sure, do you feel it? But with workshops, I feel there's this stigma and maybe this negative narrative around the value of them. And sometimes when a company hears workshop, they just think, cool, fluffy, sticky notes here. It doesn't work. But that's just because a lot of people have had bad experiences with workshops and maybe the facilitator guiding it. Maybe the facilitator wasn't good at making sure everybody had equal space to share their ideas. Maybe it just felt like a bit flat, or maybe people felt really bad within it. And so I think yeah, I think we as facilitators have a job to do to change people's minds about the value of workshops and how incredible they can be to help people make decisions and solve problems together in a way that feels good. And also designing workshops in a way that can actually replace many meetings. It's just so many meetings that we have that do not need to be
I
there.
mean, all meetings really. But
Yeah.
one of the most common misconceptions, and it's just rude. What I heard is that people say like, "Oh, when you think about workshops, but you actually just put yourself in a position of the laziest person in the world." It's just so.
Mm,
I mean, come on. I mean, it cannot be true. I mean, maybe it can be true in some cases, but it's all every project is different, so you cannot just
yeah,
do that. You even if you know your users very well, you still cannot just assume how people might react. And
exactly.
I really doubt that people really knows their ICP, like persona, that well. What do you think
Yeah.
about this?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think, yeah, there's this problem that the assumption problem is is
It's some,
truly it's truly there. And I think we all are guilty of it. Every single person on this planet has their own assumptions about stuff.
yeah,
But yeah, but I think yeah, companies are stuck in it. They're stuck in just listening to their assumptions and uh bypassing taking on a new way of doing things. And I think, yeah, just making more companies aware of how essential it is to understand your user before solving the problem for them based on your own assumptions. Yeah, I think is yeah, something I'm on a mission to do anyway. Maybe you're the same.
yeah. Well, if it's like that, then you wouldn't need anyone really. You would just
Mm,
know what to do, and you just tell AI to do it, and it's all perfect, right?
yeah.
It's not like that.
Absolutely not.
We're getting closer. Yeah, I mean, time is just flying by.
I know. Yeah, beforehand I was like, it's an
That's it.
hour. It's over.
I want to ask you because I said but that was like 20 minutes. What would be in your case best maybe process or the workshop if someone wants to rebuild, let's say, their website? What would you recommend
Um,
exercises?
So I would definitely recommend going through the design thinking process and actually going through those 5 stages. In terms of exercises, I would definitely do empathy interviewing and empathy mapping at the very beginning just to understand the user, who's actually going to be landing on this page,
Mhm.
who are we designing this website for, who are we rebuilding it for, and just, yeah, maybe there's information that you've gathered before or when you built it first. Things have changed now, so you need to regather some data around that user. So I would do that first. The second thing I would do from the empathy map, a really good exercise or like duo of exercises is defining a point of view statement. So from all of the needs of the user that you have gathered and from the insights from there, you create one point of view statement based on their needs. And this could just be like the user needs a more clear way of being able to get to our landing or being able to register for our newsletter because they are not that confident with tech. So it's just like just gathering all of that data that you've collected and putting it into one statement. And then the next exercise that you do after that is a how might we statement as you know it. And what you're doing is turning your point of view statement, your challenge, into something that you can actually create and generate solutions for. And the how might we statement for that could be how might we make our website more clear for new users to use. I'm just making it up on my own here. From there, a really good exercise to generate ideas is the 10 for 10. It's a brainstorming exercise. You can use that, which is a simple writing exercise. You put 10 minutes on the clock. You get every person to work together alone. So they're individually writing their ideas or their solutions to the how might we on
Hmm.
sticky notes for 10 minutes. And then they place their 10 best ideas up on a wall and you do a round of voting and prioritizing the top solutions from that.
So
There's
you're like,
another amazing one. Yeah. The Crazy Eights is also a lovely one that you could put
okay.
in there. And that's more of a sketching exercise where you're just generating 8 crazy ideas, sketching them or writing them to the how might we question. And then from there, you're moving into the prototyping phase and you take one of the top voted solutions and you can do a really nice concept creation exercise. And that's
Hmm.
basically very simple. You get everyone individually to
Hmm.
create what the website would look like in 3 screens. And so you just try to get them to draw what it would look like, put in the exact copy that would be on the website, maybe use sticky notes to add annotations
Yeah.
to it of just like, yeah, here's what I prepared. And from there, you have put all the concepts up on the wall, get people to do a round of like a gallery walk and heat map voting of like parts of the websites or the concepts that they really like. And then you could do a straw poll vote of, okay, you each get one green sticky note, place it on the concept that you believe is the best website rebuild. And from there, you can just like maybe take 3 winning concepts and test them with your team. So testing them would be really simple. You could just like get people to do a walkthrough of like this is the website, and we go here, and the person presses this, and
Hmm.
then you can vote on the winning one. And then the winning concept for it goes from I have no idea how we're going to rebuild this to deeply understanding the user, having the problem that you want to work on defined, ideate solutions, prototype, and then test it to see is this actually ready to go out and be executed? Or do we need to actually go back and iterate on something based on the feedback we got in the test phase? And normally with the design thinking process, there's a few iterations after the test phase. You kind of go through the loop in some ways a few times to make sure you're actually producing the right thing. And those iterations prevent companies from spending or wasting a lot of time and money on the wrong problem.
No, I think this is perfect. Thank you for this. One follow-up question on that, because I know a lot of people are concerned about the time. How
Mhm.
long like this usually takes?
It really, really depends. So if the rebuild of the website is going to be like, if there's just a few quick fixes, maybe you could do this whole entire process within 2 days. Or maybe there's a bigger issue, and it could extend into a week-long workshop. So
Mhm.
it really depends. Like the design thinking process or these workshops can go from 2 days to a week to 5 months. It depends on what you're actually doing. But rebuilding a website, I would give a team of people a week to do that properly. Each day you would maybe day one, you would do the empathize phase along with the define phase. Day two would be the ideation. Day three would be prototyping. Actually, 4 days is good. And day four would be testing and then figuring out what to do next from there. So 4 days is
Look,
actually a good
yeah,
timeline for a project.
yeah, there you go, people. I mean, I don't think it's that hard. I mean, it's not easy. It get easier over time, I guess, but it's much better understanding of how everything works, what people want, because then you're actually building something that's gonna be valuable, provide better revenue, more clicks and all of these things. So I think it's a pretty good. We did ours a bit different. How might
Hmm.
we actually on the first day?
This can
Yeah,
work.
but it works. I mean, it's kind of difficult because when you once you're used to one process, then it's difficult to change things or to add something that's different. Or and then if you experiment, sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. So yeah, I think it's a process of and depends on every team, on every project. So everybody should build it how it best works for them, I guess.
Totally.
Um, for the we're close to the end. You guys, you can. Well, I think we're gonna release this episode on Tuesday, and yeah, you guys can see more of both of us actually, but Rebecca especially on the Flow Ninja conference, 21st of May in Belgrade, live. And for the end, just like a final question for you. If you had to give one lesson to teams building websites, products, or digital experiences in general in this AI era, what would it be?
I have two lessons. I think first would be, it sounds really cliche, but like slow down before you speed up with things.
Right.
Really try to not skip that beginning phase of the process of like really defining what problem you should be solving before investing a lot of time and energy into solving the wrong problem. And the other one would just be get into a room with people before you touch any tool. Sit with your team, ask questions that feel basic, like who are we actually building this website for? What do we know about our customers, our users? What are we assuming? Try to get rid of those assumptions. And do we all agree on what success looks like for us so that everybody is aligned before you actually tackle a problem. But it's super worth it when you put the effort into that part. What else? Yeah. I think AI, it's an incredible amplifier, but sometimes it can amplify whatever you feed it. So just be very careful with it, feed it clarity, make sure that your prompts aren't confusing or basic. Yeah, because if you feed it confusion, what you'll get from it is more confusion back. That's
Yeah.
very expensive for companies. So yeah,
Yeah.
that would be it.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your thinking, your opinions, your process in general. For the end, again, where people can see you more, hear more about you, find you online, offline.
Yeah. I suppose LinkedIn is the best place to find me. Rebecca Courtney on LinkedIn. I do a lot of content there about facilitation, design thinking, how I work, and also RebeccaCourtney.com is something that I have like a nice activity toolkit there that you can look at, and I'll have a website running soon. I'm still in the early days of building my own practice, so the website isn't ready yet.
Get there. I
Yeah,
always it's no, it's not the most crucial thing for everybody. So it all depends.
totally.
Yeah, I know that in nowadays everybody needs to have websites.
Totally.
So, okay, thank you again so much for joining me. Again, guys, you can see us post on a conference next week. Actually, it's going to be this week because they're going to release this on Tuesday. Again, thank you, Rebecca, and see you next time.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks so much.